Thank you everybody for joining us for today's panel session. So joining us on the panel today we have, in no particular order, Andrew Joseph, Rob Smith, Stephen Jones and Colin Porch. So we have four people from the industry that cover across a variety of areas, from software development to preservation to developing new and exciting products, to developing the fan community. So there's a lot we can talk about today. Very keen to get your questions, so please do put your hands up. We'll bring you into the conversation. But first and foremost, I think let's do some introductions. So should we start from the end with you, Andrew?
So I'm Andrew Joseph. I run the Dizzy fan site, yolkfloat.com. I think a few years ago we hit over 5 million hits on our last thing. So yes, massive Dizzy community.
I'm Rob Smith. I brought the disc copy station that's downstairs. I also have a YouTube channel. I produce the Retro Directory and several other things. There we go.
I'm Steve Jones. Some people know me from the Amiga days, and I'm still making products. Very briefly, anyone who's come to see the monitor, there it is. I'll show you it later on if you want to see it.
Hello, I'm Colin Porch. I was the oldest programmer ever, I think, in Imagine Software and Ocean Software. And I wrote a few things like Operation Wolf and Head Over Heels and for the 64. And I've got version 2 of Head Over Heels on the ST downstairs, so you can have a look at.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. Well, look, first question from me, and this is to everyone on the panel, and then we'll open it up to the floor for a few of theirs. So, I mean, obviously the thing that unites all of us is, this shared interest, shared passion in the retro community, whether it's the retro gaming, the retro hardware, whether it's preserving the creations from that era for the modern generation. What is it that attracts you to, I suppose, the computing generation of old, and why are we not all sitting here with the latest tricked out PCs playing the latest version of Call of Duty?
Okay. I think it's nostalgia. I think is the key thing, that you remember when you're so young playing like your first Spectrum game, and then as you get older you kind of go, oh yeah, I really, really enjoyed it when I played Dizzy or played Manic Miner or played Jetpack, for example. And then you delve back into that, and the kid inside you is like, yes, we've got to get through this. And I think nostalgia is the key to this. Like in 20 years' time, there may be people talking about Tomb Raider or PlayStation 1 going, that was classic. So yeah, that's what I think.
I think for me it's nostalgia again, but it's also when I was younger and these things were about, I played with them and I learned my whole career by learning how to program on the Amiga. But now I'm a bit older, I actually understand a lot more about how they work, so I've got a bit deeper understanding, so I can now do things with floppy disks that I couldn't do back then. And I also wanted to support the community, because it's going to die if it doesn't get supported, so that's why Retro Directory exists and things like that, and I just really enjoy it.
Well, firstly, I'm not into games, which makes me a bit weird.
Yeah, but you preserve the hardware. That's the thing.
I love hardware. I've got no time for games. I do generally love computers, but I'm passionate about the Amiga, a bit too passionate. And I also don't understand, what's this retro rubbish? We're still trying to make new Amigas, so retro, come on, get over it. If you come and see me, I'll show you one that's in the bag. The Amiga is just, it's got me in loads of trouble in the past and still did it, but I've got a lovely wife, so she puts up with it.
I think one of the biggest differences between the old days and today's days is that we found it very hard to do what we did. We had to teach ourselves how to do assembly language programming. You couldn't go to a night school and study it. And you had limited memory, limited time. Today's programmers never had it so easy. They can do it in a high-level language. They got all the memory they can cope with, and in tremendous graphics to work with as well. It's a lot easier for them. I know the games are more sophisticated, but they make a lot more money, and they put the add-ons in that you have to pay for. We worked for it. We thoroughly enjoyed. And if you haven't worked at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to sort out why an interrupt routine is not interrupting the way it should, you haven't lived.
Chat GPT, that's all I'm going to say.
Well, look, there's a couple of follow-up questions I want to do before I throw it over to the audience. And Colin, I want to start with you. So, I mean, you touched on a very interesting point. You were developing software when, arguably it was individual coders or very, very small teams at best working on creating a game. But for the most part, if we look at the 8 and 16-bit era, some of our best creations were usually one-man operations. Maybe 2 if someone maybe did the graphics and one person did the code.
Usually we would have 3 at Ocean anyway. One would be doing the coding, although I did on one occasion have another coder working with me, a young guy called David Blake. And there would be one person doing the graphics.
And one doing the sound.
And one doing the sound,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, 3-man team. Now, you fast forward to 2024, and, games production.
You've got 20 people.
Or at least, I mean,
I know.
part of the problem, which is why we're seeing quite a few games companies retrenching from projects, is that, it's a cast of thousands. It's like it's like a movie crew, the amount of people that you have, and therefore the cost involved. I mean, it's bizarre that you now see games developers spending 100, 150 million getting a game to market.
But they're still making money out of it.
Yeah, I remember selling some of my early work to like Virgin. I was lucky if I got 200 quid for it.
I have to say, Ocean was the best company I've ever worked for. They paid me very well, and if I produced a game to specification and on time, because what they would do, they would say to you, how long is this game going to take? And if you said 4 months, then it had to be ready in 4 months because they booked advertising space already. If you said 3 months, it had to be ready in 3 months, and so on. But if you did it on time and it didn't need to be remastered, and I was the only one at Ocean that never had a game remastered, believe it or not. And they paid me a £5,000 bonus for doing that, if I did that. And that's a lot of money in the 1980s, believe me. I was very happy, and it was a job I loved doing. It was hard work, and I did burn the midnight oil on numerous occasions to get a project finished on time. I'd take it home, and I'd be there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I worked in Manchester at Ocean. I lived in Liverpool, so it was a fair old journey to and from where we worked. But I loved it. I loved it, and I was sorry when it all came to an end.
So, just my final point before we move on. Given how you worked, especially in the Ocean days, so it's a small team, 3 people. If the situation was reversed, if you found yourself, let's say you're still working in the 16-bit era, but you had the cast of thousands, would you have been happier working in such a large team, or would you still think you would have preferred having that small team and more control?
Well, to be honest, I'm not sure how they managed to do this, because some of you may have been around in the Imagine days. I moved to Liverpool to work for Imagine, and they promptly went bust 3 months later, left me in one hell of a hole. But the reason they went bust is because they had a deal with a company called Marshall Cavendish, who were publishers.
Yep.
And their deal was that they would give them a new computer game to be given away with their magazine, one every month. And they adopted the philosophy, if it took one person 6 months to produce a game, then 6 persons could produce the same game in 1 month. And it doesn't work like that. You fall over each other, all trying to use the same bit of memory or the same processor at different times, and so on. It just didn't work. And that's why they went bust, because they couldn't keep to that arrangement. And I struggle to see how the teams of 20 or more that you have nowadays, they must have tremendous protocols so that they don't fall over themselves. Well, I can imagine music, graphics, code. Yeah, that's 3 different things. If you've got 20 people working on code, how on earth do they tie it all together? I don't know.
Git version control, maybe.
Hey?
GitHub version control.
Well, I used to know a programmer who wrote scoring software for playing bridge, and his attitude was, I'll test it in the field. it'd say, well, this is what not working, Brian, and it'd say, oh, blah, 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 try this. And then it would go wrong again, oh, well, try this. And it didn't test anything. And I don't know how many games go out there today that aren't working as they're supposed to. I suspect there will be quite a lot.
No. I think you can see the volume of patches we get on modern games. I think it speaks volumes. No. Now, Stephen, I wanted to pick up on something that you mentioned, which I appreciate was probably half joking, but I think you raised a good point. You said, what's all this retro nonsense? We're still trying to make Amigas in 2024. I mean, when you look at what you've been doing in recent years, reimagining Amiga cases, the incredible work you're doing with the monitor, which in itself, is an all-in-one computer, really, more than anything, with the amount. With the new Amiga. With the new Amiga, I mean, given the interest in the older platforms, I mean, how is that, as someone that's a maker in the space, how much do you think it is fueling, new innovation for older technology?
First of all, one thing I'd like to say, five grand a bonus. I was in the wrong business. I should have done software then, but I had no talent. My journey started different. But when I started doing, my history goes back 30 years with, in the early days of the Amiga, and then the big hole in the middle. But the cases was more of a love letter. The first case, the Plus I made, it was literally a love letter. I mean, I love Amigas. The 3000 was my favourite, so of course it had to look like that. But you had to run anything else on it, and I was absolutely shocked. I just made up this model. I got the metalwork done, and I did 3D printed fronts, and that just to show the concept. It went nuts, and so I could launch a Kickstarter, and I think we sold nearly 2,000 of those. And the second one was just a small version. It did okay, nothing. But the first one was literally a labour of love. The monitor, on the other hand, was I'd done the case, and I wanted to make something that was I can plug all my old computers in, and not just Amigas. I have lots of other types. I wanted them all to work because it's very hard. You have to get a box for this, box for that, box for that, box for that. And I thought there was a need for it, and something that looked like a 1084. So it's not quite, but if you look at the back, it's got a hump like a 1084. So I wanted to look, so it has a retro feel, not massive for the sake of it, but just has a bit of retro feel. And that hump in the back, we decided we would then put cards into it and expand it, what we call pods. Hopefully no one from Acorns here. That is just, that was a surprise to me. I thought if we could, I needed to sell about 900 to be a success, or to make them. And we were at 1,600 from the Kickstarter backers, which gave me a budget to think, right, all those ideas we actually had. This is a very, for me, Appy, get well soon, mate. I've got an wonderful engineer who as I've tried. I said to him, "You're my was. I should have met you 30 years ago." And he said, "Whose was?" Oh, God. Anyway, so get over that. But he's not very well, so he's in hospital at the moment. But he's done such an amazing engineering job, and everyone who sees the monitor, even though I'm not showing them this time. I am taking him to Kickstart in a couple of weeks. But it's the enthusiasm and the feedback I've been getting, because I do a stream every 2 weeks. And the people were just absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, I've got to give it to them, and I hope they're as pleased as we are. But we'll find that out soon. Does that answer it? Or is it too much?
No, that's all good. That's all good. But I will say, if you haven't seen this monitor in action, it is so damn impressive. It's one of the most brilliant pictures I've seen from retro consoles of any display. So,
and you haven't seen the new version.
And I have not seen the latest version. I'm still talking about earlier prototypes, which blew me away. Yeah. So, Rob, on to you. Now, there's a lot of stuff you're involved with, the Retro Directory that's helping to promote, user groups and things like that. But for me, I think one of the more interesting projects you're involved with, which is, archiving and digitizing software of old with that amazing rig you've got downstairs. I mean, again, what prompted you to get into that? Because it's an interesting labour of love.
That started from me discovering a box of Amiga discs in my roof that I hadn't touched for like 20 years. And they were just sitting there. I had no idea if they were going to work. I went to grab my Amiga from my parents and it didn't work. For those who've got an Amiga 500 Plus, you'll probably guess why. And then I decided, well, I want to know what's on them. And at the time, there wasn't anything cheap to do that on the PC. So I built a thing called Drawbridge, which some of you may know. Grease Weasel didn't exist. That exists now, which is quite nice. And I just wanted this to be available once I'd created it. I made it available to everybody else. And then I'll check back on the project a few years later, and there was loads of options. So you've got things like the Grease Weasel, as I said, the Supercard Pro. Loads of options that are really cheap and available to everybody. And I thought to myself, especially with the copy disk station, I thought to myself, well, a lot of people have got disks that, first of all, they haven't got a drive in their computer anymore because they've swapped it with a Gotek or something like that. Or secondly, they don't want to risk the disk drive inside their machine with a disk that might actually break it. So I thought, I'll bring this thing along, and it's got inexpensive PC drives, and if they break, it doesn't matter. And it helps everybody else back up some treasures that they've had. And over the last couple of years, I've had some really quite amazing emails from people who have contacted me saying that they've like recovered some long lost music that they had from 20 years ago, or some pictures they'd drawn, and it's just a really nice story of all these things that people have recovered and that they thought they'd lost forever. So the inspiration of it just keeps me wanting to do more of this.
That's great, thank you. And then lastly, Andrew, I mean, again, you come into our world in a very interesting area in that you're running and cultivating a fan community, but particularly a fan community around one very specific set of games.
Be kind.
But arguably, a era-defining set of games, because for the 8-bit community, the Dizzy games were something we all had, we all played. But why Dizzy? Why the Yoke Folk?
Okay. Well, to be perfectly honest, that was the first game I really remember playing on my Spectrum. I had one of the arcade games, and Codemasters had this thing of really hyping up their games and putting wild phrases on the back, like absolutely brilliant and everything like that. And I remember going into Woolworths and seeing, I think it was Fast Food Dizzy in there, and Codemasters' artwork was fantastic on their thing, and it just drew me to it. And that made me play it, and then I loved it. It's like, the kid analogy I used before. And then the late 90s, dawn of homemade websites and things like that. About 97, I just happened to search Dizzy and see if it was there, and somebody had created kind of like a very bare bones version of what Yoke Folk is today. Peter Thiel created it in 97, and I joined him shortly thereafter. And then kind of over the years, people all around the world, our big following in Russia, have joined them. And as I said, we've got nearly 320 fan games, and with full support from the twins. But it's amazing finding a niche. I mean, I think Sonic have their own fans and Mario have their own fans, but still coming out of the woodwork, loads of fans that remember this character so fondly because of, as you were saying, the limitations of what you could get away with there. They wanted to make a character's face as big as possible, and people put their own imaginations into it.
That's brilliant, thank you. Well, look, let me open it up to the floor. Do we have any early questions for our panel? Oh, we've stunned everyone into silence. Come on, there's got to be at least one question out there, I'm sure. You, sir.
Yeah, I think if you'd asked me like 20 years ago if they'll ever make new Commodore 64 cartridges, I'd be like, that time's gone. But obviously it's happening now, and there's new Amigas coming out, there's new monitors coming out. Do you think that's going to keep happening with obsolete technology? Do you see new CRTs go back into production?
Well, I'll throw it to the panel, but I would have thought, new TRTs might be a stretch, but certainly, new games and new cartridges. I mean, downstairs in the Amstrad tables, I've got one of my machines that is running a brand new cartridge for the CPC Plus computers and GX4000 console, which is a game called Oh Shoot. I do recommend you go and play it if you get a chance. But yeah, so I don't know who wants to jump in first, but yeah, stimulating new productions, hardware, software, services. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've found out only today, that something I probably should have known anyway, that the new C64 is not a C64 at all. It's an emulator. And I was trying to find out whether it was going to be possible to put the new Head Over Heels 2 onto the Commodore 64. My own opinion is no, it won't be able to. It was hard enough originally, and the rooms are much busier now. But I've just been speaking to a guy downstairs who says, I think I can do it. I said, well, all right, well, go ahead. You give it a try if you think you can. But I don't know what the attraction is, but I went to a similar event last weekend in Wolverhampton. Some of you may have been there, I don't know. But it was absolutely packed. I'm always amazed at the people that have this measure of nostalgia for things 40 years ago, whatever, and they still keep coming. So there's an attraction for the old games and the old machines. I'm lucky, I still got an ST from the 1980s and it works. It went wrong a few times, but I sadly no longer have my Commodore equipment. I tried to find a home for it. I had two 64s, I had a 128, disk drives, dot matrix printer, Commodore monitor. I couldn't give it away. I tried. It all went to the tip. I just didn't have the space for it where I was living. It was incredible. Worst thing I ever did. But I kept my ST. But I don't understand why there is such a demand for the old games. But there is. Look at you. Why are you here? Why are there so few ladies, is the question. Yeah. That's a bit of an unusual one. Yeah, what do you think?
Getting games I can't hope. I can answer the CRT thing. Obviously, I have an interest in that. I tried to find CRT. I actually found a website, and it said CRTs. I went, wow, I'll get there, because I could build it around a CRT. And I phoned them up. Oh, God, is that site still there? That shut down 15 years ago. No one is going to make CRTs, because they'd never get through regulations. Unfortunately, that day's done. So I know it sounds like an advertise. Forgive me for this, but obviously I've tried to build something that can kind of bridge a bit of a gap. So it gives you hopefully the quality, allows you to fit it. It's not a CRT, but But I think I've always said that 90% of people just want to plug in and it works, and it looks nice, and that's what we are working on a bit further later on, but that's another story.
But I can definitely just to add to that briefly, on the CRT thing, there's a lot of practical reasons why you wouldn't make them. There's environmental issues from the gases. There's practical reasons from just the sheer number of parts that need to go into it. And as I discovered a little bit earlier when we had a monitor blow up downstairs, when they break, they break. And they smell.
And then Wii controls being thrown through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a fair few Wii controllers straight through the screens. That's always a great one to watch.
I've got two things to say about this. So one is, if I look at the statistics for my tiny, tiny YouTube channel, age ranges between about 30 to 60. So there's a good range of people there that are going to be looking at these machines for quite a long time, hopefully. But the other thing is that I'm quite lucky that I live about 15 minutes away from the Retro Computer Museum in Leicester, so I can go there quite regularly. And what's really nice about it is every time I go there, I see parents with their kids. And as long as we keep the younger generation involved, I don't see any reason why this stuff just wouldn't keep getting made. I received about 2 days ago Seconoid or Seconoid, made by DJ Hoffman, boxed game for the Amiga, brand new. It's crazy and it's great, and I think while the passion's there, it just needs to keep being brought to the younger generation, and it should carry on.
Yeah, I think it's generation. It's also how you consume media. Like vinyl has made a massive comeback. Pricey, but a massive comeback. So yeah, it's passing down from generation to generation, getting them enthused and enthralled in it. And yeah, we love to get media from somewhere.
I've got a 5-year-old. You will play that Amiga game. Sit down. No, nothing else. Sit down.
You mentioned a good point there about vinyl. I saw an interesting stat, I think it was earlier this year, because the other thing that's also made a, not as big a revival, but a revival nonetheless bizarrely, is cassettes. And I saw this great metric that's shown that sales of cassette tapes of pre-recorded music had overtaken CDs again for the first time in like 20 odd years. And for me, that's quite a surprising thing, because whilst vinyl never completely went away, and manufacturers of turntables never went away, and obviously they've resurged with the resurgence in vinyl, and you can still buy everything from cheap and cheerful to good quality turntables. But we have this weird situation. We have a resurgence in cassette-based music, but there is only one company left in the world that makes cassette decks, and they're crap. If you've ever watched the Techmoan YouTube channel, he's done some great deep dives into the fact that any of these like the modern cassette players, boom boxes, whatever it is that you pick up, it's all got the same deck in it from the same company, and it's a garbage piece of technology. And now that same piece of equipment is finding its way into branded products. Panasonic recently brought back out a cassette player, and it's got that deck in it.
We're going to have VHS.
As long as it ain't Betamax. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I heard an interesting discussion on the, was it Retro Hour or the RMC Neil's podcast, thinking of retro and comparing it to old cars. Like it's still a thing, but certainly like when I was a kid, there's always some like mid-40-year-olds on the street fixing their old cars up, and going down two different paths, restoring these old cars to sort of factory condition, or turning them into hot rods, something they never were, with chrome plates and fancy add-ons. And I guess I see the same downstairs. There's all sorts of, you can supercharge your old computer into something it never was, or restore it with floppy disks and forget the Gotex and all that type of thing. Where do you guys sit on that topic? Is there a right or wrong?
Hardware question.
Go for it.
All right, so part of the fun, I was talking downstairs to someone, and I love hardware. Okay, it's just always been my passion is hardware. And I recently bought, hopefully not too many Amiga fans, they might get upset, but I bought a GS, Apple GS, because I needed to make sure it worked on the thing. And I got a nice one. And I spent about 400 quid putting all these different bits, making it with a hard drive, a SD card drive in it, and I updated this and I updated that, fixed the audio. I did a whole load of stuff on it. And once I'd finished it and it was perfect, bored. Now what?
On the
And
shelf,
so
never to be used again.
I've got loads. But that's what happened. And this is going to sound like an advert again, but that's what happens with what I do here. Because as soon as Appy did the back plane, I went, oh, we could put an Amiga plug into that. And then off he went.
So it's the journey, not the destination.
Yes. And I've also got a 30-year-old GPZ 900R motorbike. So I've had that for a long time.
Will that fit in the back of the monitor?
The model, I've actually got a model on my desk of the same bike. So I'm into motorbikes as well. So, but yeah, it's absolutely true. Sometimes it's that. For me, I know I joked earlier on about the Amiga's not retro, it's coming back. It is. I'm working on it. And there's a lot of us working on it. So, bit of both.
Well, I was only going to say that my ST has had, I don't know how much memory added to it, because I'm trying to use it as a target machine and a development machine at the same time. It kept going wrong. It didn't like this memory, it didn't like that memory, it cracked. I will tell you one little story. When I went to an event similar to this in Norwich, and I didn't take my cathode ray tube TV, which I've always used with it, because we'll supply you with a monitor. You don't need to bring that. And I plugged it into a monitor, and it worked. And then I pressed the reset button on the back of the ST, and the whole thing blew up. There's something about modern day monitors and STs, and I've never used it with one of those again. I always bring my CRT thing with me. I don't know whether any of you know Sophie in the Coventry area.
Yeah.
Because she, I say she's a he, has been marvellous in fixing it. When it goes wrong, she fixes it. And she'll never ever take payment for it. She's a wonderful person. He's a wonderful person. Call it what you like, you know. But she's marvellous, and I can ring her. And, you know, she doesn't. She's not in the industry anymore. I think she's nursing, but she'll still look at my computer if it goes wrong. Hasn't gone wrong for a long time. Keep my fingers crossed. The project's finished, but who knows?
That's not the person from
She's in Coventry.
He's on to, no, I think somebody else, yeah.
She's just wonderful with electronics.
Any more questions? No? No?
We're bored of
I've got one.
Go on.
Colin, did you play golf with Gary Bracey when you were at Ocean?
No, I know he's a golfer. I do play golf. No, well, I'll rephrase that. I put in an appearance on the course. People will tell you I belong to the unluckiest golf club in the country. Since I played golf there, and I joined there in the late 1990s, somebody put a ball from a 3-wood into my left eye. So I'm pretty blind in that eye. If you look at the iris, you'll see it's wide open because the muscle of the iris muscle is damaged. And then a year or so later, I had a heart attack on the course, playing with a lady, and I collapsed. I'm lying on the grass on the 14th tee. "I'll go and get your ball," she said. And she came back, she put my ball in front of me. "You can find your own way back to the clubhouse, can't you?" And off she went. And I didn't have a mobile phone with me. I always carry one now, but I didn't have one then. And I have no idea how I managed to get back to the clubhouse. But I did, and ambulance was called. I went to Papworth, they put a stent in. And then a couple of years after that, I slipped on some wet grass and fell onto what was part of the tee, some wooden sleepers, and totally smashed my right shoulder. So I can do that, but that's as far as I can lift my right hand. And yet I still try to play golf.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah, much safer.
I love it. I'm no good at it. I'll never be any good at it, but I will keep playing for as long as I can. I can no longer, sadly, walk around the course. If you look at my car, which is in the car park, you'll see there is a golf buggy. It lives in the back of my car. And my club lets me use that. And I go around with my golf buggy. If I play in matches against other places, I use my golf buggy. And I'm very happy with it. I'll keep playing until I drop dead, I think. But I'm no good at it. I never played with Gary. I didn't take up golf until I was in my late 40s. And I'd already left Ocean by then. But I know he was very keen. Yeah. Any more?
Any more?
Yeah.
It's not quite related, but just an interesting thing. Did a lot of Imagine developers move to Ocean when it went into receivership?
When Imagine, well, no, I don't think any of them actually moved to Ocean. When Ocean went bust, there's a company called Software Projects that advertised for 2 programmers, and they were in South Liverpool, and they actually took on 4. And I think I had a little bit of an advantage because although I think by today's standards it was crap, I had a game published called California Gold Rush. You may have come across it. It was rubbish, I know, but that gave me an advantage. And Software Projects took on 4 of us, I don't think any of them went to Imagine.
No, probably because Imagine went bust, didn't it?
Went to Ocean. I don't think any went direct to Ocean. I worked for software projects for a couple of years, and then Colin Stokes, who was at Imagine, rang me and headhunted me to go to work for Ocean. And they offered me a deal I just couldn't refuse. And to be honest, I know you talked about the bonus that I got. I think I was pretty much the exception, because I've spoken to a number of other Ocean programmers, and they didn't get the bonuses I got. Why? I don't know. Maybe they wanted me at the time for some particular reason. I don't know. But that was the deal I got. I lived in Liverpool. I worked in Manchester. They paid my travelling expenses to and from Liverpool. And in fact, there's another guy, Steve Lavash, who was on the technical team. He also lived in Liverpool, and we would go in my car one week and his car next week. But no, they were a great company. But I don't know of any people that worked at Imagine other than myself that went to Simon Butler. Maybe he had some connection with Imagine. He didn't work for Ocean, but he worked with Ocean for a lot of things.
I think he did do something at Imagine.
Yeah,
so maybe there might be a
little bit of a
loose
crossover
link
there. He was very good at what he did. Still is very good at what he does. Yeah.
Because I've watched the documentary and they literally went out to lunch and then the receivers came in.
Well, they knew the receivers were coming. All the big boys at the time when the receivers came were in America collecting finance, or so they said. I was in the building at the time when the bailiffs come.
I saw this documentary. It had this very advanced game that needed this add-on for the Spectrum.
Yep.
Is that one of the reasons why they owned it?
I don't know. I had some of my own equipment in the Imagine building, and I had a dickens of a job getting it out. I had to convince the bailiffs that it was mine and not Ocean's, and I did manage to convince them eventually.
Was there a lot of copying of cassettes at the time? I mean, I was like 12.
A lot of what? I'm sorry.
I was 12 years old at the time.
A lot of copying. Oh yeah, pirating. Well, I'll tell you another story. When I went to software projects, I was given the task of producing a tape that couldn't be copied. Yeah, we've all been there. And they came up with this color coding thing as well. You know, you were given a leaflet with your game, and when your program ran, it would ask you, you know, what are the 4 colors at this particular location, and you needed them mapped. But I was given the task of producing a loader that couldn't be duplicated. And Ian somebody or other, we both worked on it, and we produced a turbo loader that when we've done it, we couldn't copy it. All right, it worked, but if we took a tape-to-tape copy, the one we copied wouldn't work. Great! Goes off to be duplicated. They couldn't copy it.
Oh no!
And the guy that looked at it, the duplicator, I've never seen a waveform like that. I said, well, maybe that's why. So we had to give that up eventually. But piracy was a big problem then, probably still is now. You know, tape-to-tape machines, you copied a tape. Discs, you know, the original discs, you could make them difficult to copy, but not anymore. They just use they read it byte by byte and they copy it.
But that was the thing, at least you could put more obstacles in the way of a disc copy. You know, so tapes, you know, all you needed was a £20 2-tape boombox and you're off and running.
That's why they do software.
Yeah. Big problem in those days. I don't know the problems nowadays, to be honest, but I know software projects spent an awful lot of money trying to combat it, and the best they came up with was this color-coded system that effectively picked a section of RAM of memory, and that represented 4 bits, the 2 consecutive bytes, 4 colors, and they found them on a chart. And if they didn't have the chart, then they couldn't run the game. That's what they did.
Yeah, well, you mentioned obviously about today. I mean, of course, what we're seeing now is a very interesting shift because, of course, we're seeing everybody now doing their damnedest to pull away from physical media as much as possible because we're purely digital. You can apply digital rights management, and finally stamp out the piracy once and for all. But then you run into the secondary problem, which we've seen often on things like Steam, which is account theft. And someone that had their Steam account stolen by a Ukrainian Counter-Strike gang. It took me 2 years to get the account back. Wow. Well, mind, I only had 3 games in the account. Half-Life, Counter-Strike, and something else. But yeah, it was one of those ones I didn't have the strongest of passwords. I may have used that password on more than one account. And yeah, it got consumed, and it was a battle to finally get it back again. On the plus side, when I got it back, it gained several more games.
For free?
For free, that I dutifully kept. I can't say how the Ukrainian Counter-Strike gang acquired those games, but they're in my account now.
Can I ask the audience a question? How many of you play games from yesteryear? Yeah, wonderful. You still do? Oh, you used to. No, that's an interesting statistic. Because
one of the reasons I'm attracted to the old games is the light. You can pick them up often and just play for 5, 10, 15 minutes, and when you've got young kids, that's about the running.
Wow.
Whereas a modern game, you have to dedicate 10 to 100.
Well, 15 minutes is just for the pre-roll to finish playing through.
When I went to Imagine, rather, this is I wasn't much for playing games, but I did take 2 games with me: Boulder Dash, that I'm sure you've all heard of, and Load Runner, that you've probably all heard of by Brodeband. And people at Imagine, all the other programs, they'd never seen them, and they became a cult thing in days, etc. How'd you get past level 129? I don't know. But they had really, really lasting playability. Today's games, I know they're multiplayer and whatever, but and I know my grandson he plays Fortnite. He spends a fortune on things that well, what do you want for Christmas? I want a skin. What's that? It's something that makes him look good on screen, but doesn't do anything. It costs 40 quid. I know. I don't understand. If it gives you extra weapons or something, I can understand that. No, just to look good, 40 quid. That's what he wants, But have today's games got the same playability as Boulder Dash and Load Runner? I don't think so, but yeah, maybe I'm biased.
Style over substance.
I think going to what you were saying about digital consumption and physical consumption, I'm lucky enough to be part of the super tester team for Blaze Entertainment, the Evercade that's come out. And their sole purpose is to tailor games that aren't going to overwhelm you. Of course, you can go on sites that can download ROMs and have every single game from the C64, every single game. But they do try and make it physical, a dedicated collection, and you get a manual, you get a cartridge, you can hold it. And yeah, having something physically in your hand, I think is a lot better than streaming or anything digital any day.
Yeah, one thing I would say about a digital thing, I mean, I play a lot of bridge, and there was a program that I wanted that would deal cards to specific specifications, and I downloaded it, and it worked fine for a while, and then it went wrong. And it took me nearly 3 months to get another download copy without having to pay for it again, And so I don't think the digital world is going to solve everything. Because what do you do if the system, if it goes wrong, and the company that sold it to you is not in business anymore?
That's a good point.
You've lost it.
Also, as like Microsoft, you buy stuff, and then they go, okay, we're just going to move it from the Microsoft store. I can never download that again now, unless I keep it on the thing. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, we've seen an interesting thing generally with the whole digital content world in that, never mind, obviously, continuous payments and upgrades and things like that. But it's, it's that ability to remove a product from you that you previously had, or to, because you're really, they can edit it. If you've ever owned any Amazon Kindle books, Amazon does, on occasion, push out revised versions, and you don't really have much of a say in it.
My Kindle won't take half their books now.
I think my one's actually in the same boat, funnily enough. But then also there is this whole issue of ownership. When we had physical media, we could lend it, we could trade it, we could sell it. With the digital stuff,
You can't.
we don't really even own it. So we're just renting it till we die, and then it's theirs again.
And I get kind of like it's better for the environment that there isn't, but yeah, there's arguments for and against, but yeah, I definitely physical.
Well, the environmental one actually is curious. I'm doing an interview a week on Monday on the BBC discussing is streaming killing the world? And the argument there is that with this move to digital consumption is the massive increase in energy use, data center footprints, power to drive ever increasing broadband networks. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But at least once you've expelled that energy to make a disc, it's there, it's done.
What's that going to be transmitted on? What channel?
That is going out on all BBC radio stations.
Oh, right. Okay.
On it's about 11 o'clock on Monday. Was it the 20?
4th, probably.
18, 19, 24th, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So worth listening. But I think it's going to be an interesting discussion about how so there's moved to digital for everything, whether it's computer gaming to watching Suits. Actually, not as smart a move as we necessarily thought it might be from a environmental impact over physical media. There's actually an argument that physical media has an edge, especially when it comes to reuse and rewatching. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop answering the questions now. I just want to throw it over to the audience. I'm just curious, again, just playing up on something that was talked about a minute ago. Obviously, hopefully we're all here because of an interest in retro computing and retro gaming. I'm just curious, what's your one retro go-to game? What's the one that you like going back and playing over and over again?
Dizzy.
Not at all biased down the end there. But give me a few examples. You said, what's your go-to game?
So it's not ancient retro, but Outrun 2. I like to just bash through the five laps on that on an OG Xbox, and it's a 5-minute end-to-end thing. Done. I get a fix, fits with me, and then it's good practice when I see it in an arcade. I can show off.
Bubble. Oh,
Can I
classic.
throw Lemmings in there as well?
Oh, an excellent choice. And obviously, for those of you, if you've not yet played the Amstrad CPC version of Lemmings, you're missing out. You need to experience it. It is truly one of the best versions of the game.
Do they still explode?
They do still explode. Nothing is lost. Nothing is lost. But unlike the Spectrum version, it has colour. The music does not slow down as more lemmings go on screen. They do still explode in beautiful Technicolor elegance. And there is a different music track for every level, as opposed to the Spectrum version that just has the one music track that plays over and over again. Not that I have any bias there, but you tell, what's your go-to game? Chucky Egg. Oh.
Yeah, I did too.
I actually reviewed, when I was like 12, they sent me a copy and I reviewed the April Electron for the weekly magazine because they didn't have an April Electron person, so I just reviewed all the games.
Do we have any
You sir,
lemons?
California T-shirt. What's your go-to?
It's a bit of a weird one. Bruce Lee.
Oh.
I absolutely played that game to death. I completed because you can do it in succession.
Yeah.
So we just literally, like Sundays when it was, freezing cold outside and, raining, and I just literally spend the day just completing it.
That is on the one of the C64 Evercade collections, but we had to call it Lee for legal reasons.
I'm probably preempting this, but you, sir, wearing the Jetpack T-shirt.
It's not just but extremely old, and I'm right back there in the early 80s, so But I do like the old arcade games. Gallagher.
Gallagher's a classic.
Just shoot.
Got a little miniature arcade cabinet of Gallagher at home, which my girlfriend gave me for Christmas one year, and she stuck a post-it note on it with the Tony Stark quote from Iron Man, where he's walking through and he just stops and says, "That man is playing Gallagher."
And Astro Wars, of course.
Oh, Astro Wars! That was an arcade classic.
See, I remember playing Star Trek on a terminal with the roll of paper. But I'm a bit older than you.
Well, look, time is almost up, so I'm going to ask for, if there is one more question from the audience, if there is one. If not, I'm going to wrap up with the panel. Last chance, going. Okay, right, we're going to wrap up with the panel. So, with a few minutes left, I've just got one last thing, we'll go down the row. We have hit some interesting sort of milestones for the retro community. This year represents the 40th anniversary of one of the truly great platforms of our history, the Amstrad CPC. Obviously the true winner of the 8-bit wars.
I think Jake Miner's crew might disagree.
No. Yeah, history was vague on that at best. But of course, next year gives us another interesting one, because of course next year will be 40 years of the Amiga. So, with that in mind, given that we are now getting to some truly epic, milestone points for these platforms. We're getting into, 40-year histories for machines that we've still got going strong downstairs, or in the case of one machine where we still have monitors exploding downstairs. What do you think we can expect to see happen in the retro community in the next couple of years? What are your predictions for what's going to emerge, where things are going to go?
I think that, while sales, because companies go on sales figures, while the mini consoles are having a resurgence, I think that they're going to target pocket money players that will go and grab those things. But I think it's just making memories, isn't it? That you're here to relive.
So making memories or making money?
Well, yeah, the companies make the money, but we will keep consuming retro until there is no more retro.
But yeah, mini consoles, I think, is an interesting one. Still waiting for my GX4000 Mini with the elusive Chase HQ 2 and Gaza 2, the unreleased games. I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
You've got the mini arcade cabs as well in that as well.
Oh yes, and they're great fun. Any other predictions from your side?
More hardware, newer machines, more minis.
More minis, okay. Colin?
I don't know about predictions, but I had a conversation with the lady that was on the cash desk at Revival last week, and she was saying, well, we haven't made any money, but our objective was not to lose any money. So I don't know how much it costs them for the venue or to hire or to get hold of all the arcade machines that they've got there, but they're doing it for the love of the nostalgia that they're providing. They're not doing it to make money out of it. So that's what they're going to keep on doing, I suspect. And everybody that went had a great weekend. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And everybody, the place was absolutely heaving.
Stephen, last word to you, sir.
Oh, God. So I suppose we'll still be having the argument which is best, emulation or FPGA. Which is hard when everyone's gone blank.
FPGA.
Absolutely, yeah. I just think there'll be, as you said, there'll be these small little mini consoles that look like your computer. Like I've obviously bought the Amiga 500 one.
Something half the room has.
I've got loads of them. In the FPGA, we need to talk about FPGA. But yeah, I think it's just I think it's also people, as long as they can keep their machines working. I mean, this club is great. I mean, I don't know how many of you, but this club is actually really good. I don't get here as much as I should. But people turn up and they'll help fix the machines. And while there's people like this and clubs like this around, it's going to go on forever. I hope so, because I want to sell your monitors.
I think, sorry, that preservation as well, that's a really big thing. And working with the Olivers, they had loads of games up in their loft that they hadn't finished. And yeah, through people such like yourself, were able to get that data off, and then you find new software, new games from programmers that you loved 20, 30 years ago. So yeah, that may come out of the woodwork.
It amazes me somewhat too that the number of people that just simply recognise my name. I stayed at this hotel while I was at Revival last week. I didn't stay at the venue itself. I stayed at a hotel down the road, and the next morning at breakfast, somebody said, "I know your face." And I said, "Oh." He says, "You're Colin Porch. I know all about you." I said, "Well, yeah, but people do. You know, I didn't know this guy from Adam, but he knew who I was and he knew all about me. And, you know, it didn't help that the hotel came out at 8:15 and said, "I'm sorry, there's nobody to serve you breakfast today." What? We've paid for it. Yeah. That was that.
Bizarre.
But, yeah, but there's a lot of people that are very, very interested in the days that we're talking about, the 1980s in particular, and the early 1990s. I think it's sad that that home micros aren't supported anymore in the way they used to be. We've got the PlayStations and the Xboxes, and they've taken over. And it was inevitable they were going to do so because they've got dedicated processors and all the memory that they use. And, you know, they haven't lived if they've tried to do a 64K and a 1.2 meg processor, you know. But that's what we had, and that's what we made work, and we were proud of it.
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, we were lucky. I was lucky. I was lucky, yeah. I was lucky. I loved it. It was the best days of my life when I was doing that. And I'm still doing it. I mean, you know, I'm still programming after a fashion.
Well, I think on that note, and on us almost lapsing into a Monty Python sketch,
You got it.
I think we'll wrap it up. Please give it up for our panel. Thank you very much indeed.